No one in Hollywood ever understood the strange electric tension between Barbra Streisand and Robert Redford. For 50 years, fans whispered about it, studios buried it, tabloids hinted at it, and neither Barbra nor Redford ever dared to explain what truly happened behind the scenes of The Way We Were. But when Robert Redford died at 89, the silence finally cracked. And what Barbra confessed was nothing like the rumors of a secret romance. It was deeper, more fragile, and infinitely more human. Barbra once said she had never been intimidated by acting, except when Robert Redford walked into a room. Their chemistry on the screen looked effortless, almost dangerously real. But behind the camera, an emotional tension simmered, so sharp, so unpredictable, that even director Sidney Pollack later admitted they didn't need to act, they just had to look at each other. Yet what the world didn't know was that this tension was born not from desire, but from fear. Fear Redford carried silently, fear Barbra sensed, but misunderstood. Fear that began long before Hollywood ever knew his name, and this fear shaped everything, his distance, his guardedness, and the one heartbreaking truth Barbra only discovered after filming ended. From the very beginning, Robert Redford resisted joining The Way We Were. He felt the role of Hubble was too shallow, too polished, a man without conflict, he once told director Sidney Pollack. That single comment stunned Barbra. To her, the entire beauty of the film came from contradiction. His effortless charm versus her fire, his stillness versus her emotion. And yet, even she quietly admitted he was right, and it frightened me how right he was. What she didn't realize then was that Redford's resistance came from a deeper place. Not ego, not frustration, but a fear he had carried for years of vulnerability, of emotional exposure, of being truly seen. As rehearsals began, Redford refused certain lines that hinted at insecurity. He questioned scenes where Hubble appeared emotionally fragile. He pushed back at any moment that felt too raw, too revealing. Barbra misread all of it. She thought he was being distant, dismissive, maybe even cold, but Redford wasn't protecting the character. He was protecting himself. Pollack later described their dynamic in a single sentence. They were never relaxed together. That tension did all the work. And the more Redford pulled away, the more powerful their on-screen chemistry became. Hollywood would never replicate it. Fans would never forget it. And Barbra would never understand the truth until much later. To the outside world, Robert Redford radiated confidence, golden boy charm, quiet strength, the kind of presence that made people assume nothing could shake him. But behind that calm exterior was a man carrying wounds Barbra had no idea existed. On set, she often blurred the line between acting and emotion. Her natural warmth, her flirtatious humor, her expressive energy. To most actors, it was a gift. To Redford, it was overwhelming. He insisted on extra protection under his costume, not because of Barbra, but because he feared the tabloids. "I don't want anyone inventing a relationship that doesn't exist," he said. Barbra took that personally. For a woman so open-hearted, so expressive, Redford's guardedness felt like rejection, like he was pushing her away. But privately, Redford struggled with something far more painful. He didn't trust intense emotion, not from anyone, and especially not from a co-star who admired him as deeply as Barbra did. A biographer later revealed that Redford sometimes needed distance because Barbra's sincerity felt too real, too direct. She admired him, But he was terrified that admiration could be misunderstood. Even so, their connection grew stronger, not romantically, but through a strange, unspoken understanding, a chemistry born not from desire, but from collision. At the end of filming, Redford quietly told a friend, "I don't know what we created, but it will follow us for the rest of our lives." And he was right. It did. What Barbra never knew, what no one on set knew, was that Robert Redford wasn't just a guarded actor. He was a man carrying grief that had carved scars into his life long before Hollywood ever whispered his name. His pain began in 1955 when he was just 18. His mother, Martha, the woman who nurtured his artistic soul, died suddenly at only 40 years old. Redford later admitted that her death broke something in him, something that never fully healed. The loss left him terrified of deep emotional connection, terrified of losing the people he loved, terrified of anyone seeing the cracks beneath his calm exterior. And then, in 1959, tragedy struck again. His first son, baby Scott, died at just 2 months old. Redford rarely talked about it, but when he did, he used words that chilled those who heard them. "There are wounds you learn to walk with. They never heal." These wounds shaped every interaction he had, every relationship, every role he rejected, every wall he built. So when Barbra's bright, unfiltered warmth collided with his unhealed grief, he withdrew, not out of arrogance, but survival. To Barbra, he seemed distant. To Redford, he was simply trying not to drown. This is why he avoided intimacy in his scripts, why he rejected scenes that portrayed vulnerability, why even decades later co-stars like Jane Fonda said he was an incredibly good listener, but impossible to truly reach. Barbra wasn't pushing against a man who didn't like her. She was pushing against a lifetime of sorrow. When The Way We Were premiered, Barbra thought life would return to normal, that the tension with Redford would fade, that the confusion she felt on set would disappear. But instead, something unexpected happened. Crew members, people she trusted, quietly began telling her things Redford never mentioned. Pieces of his past he kept locked away. Pieces that suddenly made everything click into place. His mother dying when he was 18, his infant son passing at 2 months old, his lifelong struggle to let anyone get too close. Barbra was devastated. For months, she had mistaken his quietness for dismissal. She thought he was cold. She thought he didn't appreciate her energy or her dedication. She thought she annoyed him. But now she realized the truth. She hadn't been confronting arrogance. She had been colliding with grief. She later admitted privately to a friend, "I wish I had known. I would have treated him differently." That confession revealed the guilt she carried, because suddenly everything made sense. His guarded eyes, his distance, his resistance to emotional scenes, his refusal to blur the line between acting and reality. He wasn't rejecting her. He was protecting himself. And for the first time, Barbra understood the weight he had been carrying silently beside her, the weight behind his smiles, his pauses, his hesitations, the weight that made their chemistry both electric and unreachable. After the film became a worldwide phenomenon, the pressure on Robert Redford grew unbearable. The romantic speculation, the magazine covers, the endless headlines linking him to Barbra, it all terrified him. Fans sent letters asking if they were secretly together. Journalists followed him relentlessly. Hollywood pushed the fantasy because it sold tickets, but to Redford, it felt like losing control of his own identity. A close friend later revealed something heartbreaking. He hated the idea that people believed he belonged to someone, even Barbra. So he withdrew. He began rejecting romantic scripts. He avoided joint interviews with Barbra. He even arrived late to events just to avoid standing beside her on the red carpet. Not because he disliked her, but because he feared he would never escape the narrative. Barbra didn't know this. So when he pulled away, she assumed he didn't want her around. She felt he was distancing himself from her specifically. But Redford only saw survival, a way to protect his privacy, his marriage, and his emotional boundaries. Their once vibrant communication faded. They spoke only politely, never personally. Barbra felt protective of him. Redford felt exposed by her presence, as if she could see through him more clearly than anyone else. And despite everything, the misinterpretations, the silence, the emotional distance, neither of them could deny that the way we were had tied their lives together in a way neither fully understood nor ever escaped. When Robert Redford passed away at 89, Hollywood immediately lit up in tributes. Actors, directors, journalists, everyone rushed to share memories, quotes, and carefully crafted statements. Everyone except Barbra Streisand. She went silent. For 5 full days, she said nothing. No interviews, no social media posts, not even a brief message from her team. People whispered that the silence meant something deeper than anyone expected. And when she finally spoke, the world stopped. Her tribute wasn't polished, it wasn't formal, it wasn't the usual Hollywood goodbye, it was raw. She wrote, "Every day on the set of The Way We Were was exciting, intense and pure joy. He was one of a kind." But then came the sentence that shattered fans. "We promised to exchange our drawings. I will always keep that promise in my heart." It wasn't a memory of fame or awards or stardom. It was personal, intimate, something only the two of them understood. She wasn't mourning a co-star, she was mourning a connection she never fully grasped, never fully resolved, and, deep down, never fully let go. Later, a friend revealed something even more haunting. Barbra had privately said, "We understood each other better than we admitted, maybe too well." Her words ignited debate across the internet. Was she confessing unspoken love or acknowledging a bond built on tension, misunderstanding, and emotional collision? Nobody knows. But one thing became clear. Redford represented a chapter in Barbra's life that never closed, a chapter filled with admiration, conflict, distance, and truths neither of them ever dared to speak aloud. After Redford's death, something changed in Barbra Streisand. The world saw a simple tribute, but behind closed doors, she carried a heavier truth. Industry insiders quietly revealed that Barbra began rewatching scenes from The Way We Were, not for nostalgia, not for vanity, but searching, lingering, trying to understand the man she never truly reached. Sometimes she would pause the film at the quietest moments, those fleeting seconds when Redford's eyes softened, when his guard dropped, when he let the world see, just for a breath, the fragile soul behind the polished exterior. Barbra privately admitted those were the moments where the real him broke through, not the star, not the legend, not the Hollywood icon, but the wounded, brilliant, deeply private man she had unknowingly collided with decades earlier. Her tribute wasn't just a goodbye, it was a confession, a truth she had carried for 50 years. Their connection was real, but unresolved, powerful, but impossible, honest, but forever unspoken. And that is why even now she keeps that promise in her heart. The drawings they never exchanged, the understanding they never voiced, the chapter that never closed. For half a century, Hollywood tried to simplify what happened between Barbra Streisand and Robert Redford. They called it chemistry, they called it acting, they called it rumor. But the truth was far more complicated. Two people collided, one open-hearted, expressive, unafraid of emotion, the other guarded, grieving, terrified of being truly seen. They weren't lovers, they weren't exactly friends, they weren't strangers either. They existed in a fragile space in between, a space Hollywood never understood, a space Redford spent his life protecting, and a space Barbra didn't fully comprehend until it was too late. And when he died, she realized something devastating. What they shared was not romance, but recognition. Two souls meeting in the briefest, rawest moments, then drifting apart because neither knew how to hold on. Even now, fans still debate it. Was it admiration, unresolved connection, or something deeper, something powerful enough that Barbra carries it silently to this day? No answer has ever felt complete, because the truth lived only in the spaces between their glances, the pauses in their conversations, and the moments where neither dared to speak what they truly felt. And maybe that's why the world can't let go of them, because some connections aren't meant to be explained. They're meant to be felt. So now, after everything we've uncovered, after the tragedies Redford carried, after the misunderstandings Barbra lived with, after the silence, the guilt, and the truth that surfaced only after his death, we are left with a single haunting question. What did Barbra Streisand truly feel for Robert Redford? Was it admiration for a man whose talent matched her own? Was it an emotional connection neither of them knew how to name? Or was it something deeper, something fragile, powerful, and forever left unspoken? The world may never know, but their story remains one of Hollywood's most complex human bonds, built not on romance, but on pain, distance, chemistry, and unresolved understanding, a connection that time never erased, a silence that spoke louder than words, a chapter that Barbra still carries in her heart. Now it's your turn. What do you believe happened between them? Comment below. I want to hear your thoughts. And if you want more emotional deep dives into Hollywood's most mysterious relationships, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story hidden behind the spotlight.